Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we'll be talking about my favorite movies from 2023. Lots of movies came out this year, and there were some I was excited for that unfortunately got pushed back because, the strike happened and these studios didn't want to pay the actors and meet their needs. But even with that, there were some films that came out this year that were still great. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. These films that I will list will be in no particular order and just what I think the top films of the year for me were, so I suggest that you watch them all. Even though I have narrowed it down to a small list, as small as I possibly can, there were some other films that I also thought were great, and I think that you should also check them out. So here are my honorable mentions. The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, Joyride, Talk to Me, Red, White, and Royal Blue, and John Wick 4. So, without further ado, let's get into the good stuff. Starting things off is Bottoms, which tells the story of two unpopular lesbians who start a female fight club at their school to get close to their crushes, and it is a hilarious movie. Rachel Sennott and Ayo Edebiri lead this movie, but the whole cast is hilarious, especially Marshawn Lynch, who is like their advisor for their club. This movie throws in these stereotypes about high school and mixes them with some real life experience people deal with in high school, and it just kind of meshes so well. I think one of the best parts of this film was them having to use their fighting skills at the end of the day to save these footballers who were actually really mean to them and just awful men. But because they, saved these footballers and showed off their badass fighting skills, they kind of became more popular in the end. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem was a freaking surprise and to me became not only one of the best TMNT movies, but one of the best movies of this year. The film shows that the Turtles just are getting started with crime fighting and trying to not only find their place in the world, but also defend it from the villainous Superfly. My favorite part of the film is how they did a good job of showing that these turtles are teenagers, which I think is often forgotten, which is shocking considering that the title has teenagers in it, and made them teenagers from like the modern day with their slang and how it would be for them to be actually growing up in New York City. It's heartwarming and funny, and if you ever have a chance, just look at the voice cast because it was very impressive for this movie. Oppenheimer follows J. Robert Oppenheimer as he leads the Manhattan Project, which ushered in the nuclear age with the creation of the atomic bomb and his fall from grace in response to the 1954 security hearings. It's an interesting film that shows all that went into making this bomb despite warnings from fellow scientists on how this technology would change the world for the worst. I think my favorite part of this film is seeing how no matter how much Oppenheimer did for the government by creating this super weapon, even though it ended so many innocent lives, they still didn't show any loyalty to him and turned their back on him and threw him under the bus the first moment that they could. While going into this film, I thought it would be very pro-war, and I was kind of shocked that it's not so much pro-war, but definitely a warning of what war can bring. Come on, Barbie, let's go party. The movie that surprised many, but let's be honest, we all knew would be a hit. Barbie follows stereotypical Barbie who is trying to figure out what she was made for and takes a trip to the real world from Barbie Land with her partner Ken, which leads to her learning more than she ever imagined. The film shows how hard it is being a woman in society and how unpleasant the patriarchy is. The whole cast was phenomenal, and don't even get me started on the soundtrack. This film had the best marketing for a movie that I've seen this year, and on top of all of the Barbenheimer hype, they really utilized some of the normal advertising routes as well as more niche marketing that helped get even more people excited about this film. My favorite part of this film was the monologue that America Ferrera's character did about being a woman in society in modern day and how hard it is to try to make sure that you are making sure that the men in the room are happy with how you're presenting yourself and how difficult it is to kind of just juggle you trying to live your life as a woman, but also caring about what other people are also thinking about. And her whole little statement and monologue was just 100% true, and it just further showed how difficult it is going through life dealing with all of that. This whole movie is just phenomenal. And I was really glad that it was super successful because I think it's a movie that, was different from what we've seen in the past and kind of was very shocking for many people. But I think that with, the leads of this movie and just everything behind it, it was just a fantastic movie. And it definitely deserves like all the praise that it got. Last, but certainly not least, is Evil Dead Rise. The film follows Beth, who comes to visit her sister and her sister's kids, and the kids stumble upon the Book of the Dead and opens it and releases an evil that they will all regret. I love horror films, and this film surprised me with how gory and scary it was, and I thought it did such a good job of creating scenarios where the characters would be trapped even though they were in, a big city instead of a small rural location. My favorite part of this movie was Alyssa Sutherland's performance of Ellie, who starts off as like a cool mom, but gets possessed and just did such a great job as this possessed mom who is trying to possess or kill everyone else on the floor. I would love to see another Evil Dead where they combine the survivors from the other Evil Dead franchises and then they come together with all three books and when we see if they are able to stop the evil. I really hope that we get more Evil Dead movies because this one proved that there is still some life left in the franchise. 2023 was great for films and I got to see so many, but these are some of the ones that just really stood out for me. Filmmaking is hard work, so shout out to the people who were a part of making some of these films happen this year, no matter how the films were received. I can't wait to see what next year brings. As always, feel free to share what some of your favorites were from this year down in the comments. We may not agree, but I want to see what movies stood out for you. Besides that, everyone stay safe, have fun, and goodbye.